Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you all so much for joining us. This week, Democrats are continuing to advance our Make It in America agenda to strengthen American manufacturing and create jobs to make America the world's leader in innovative technologies again after a decade of damage to our economy. This week, we passed Marcy Kaptur's Congressional Make It in America Promise Act that requires Congress to buy American, and Larry Kissell's Barrier Amendment Extension Act, which requires the Department of Homeland Security and its agencies to buy American. And finally, we passed a bill that I like to call Rule Star that I introduced with Tom Perriell and a bipartisan group of members. Rule Star provides relatively small federal loans through an existing program, the Rural Co-ops, to help make homes more energy efficient. Homeowners pay off their investments in home energy efficiency through savings on their electric bills. In turn, we create jobs in the manufacturing and construction industries, reduce energy consumption and costs. Ladies and gentlemen, these bills are just common sense. President Obama has already signed 3 Make It in America bills into law. These new laws close tax loopholes that encourage companies to ship jobs overseas, make it cheaper for United States companies to obtain the materials they need to manufacture goods, speed innovation by breaking the backlog of patents awaiting approval. And our Make It in America agenda is already having an impact. Thanks to the Manufacturing Enhancement Act passed by the House in July, a textile mill in rural Warren County, North Carolina, recently brought back a third shift. 38 jobs are paying $8.50 an hour and up. These common sense policies that support and strengthen American manufacturing and create jobs are an important part of moving America forward. Unfortunately, our Republican colleagues want to return to the failed policies of the Bush administration that encouraged outsourcing and the loss of 4.6 million American manufacturing jobs. Republicans voted 170 to 1 to protect tax breaks for companies shipping jobs overseas. 95% of House Republicans have signed a pledge to protect these tax breaks. 100% of House Republicans voted against creating and saving 3.6 million American jobs, including advanced vehicle and clean energy manufacturing jobs. We can't go back. We must continue moving forward, because when we make it in America, more middle-income American families will also make it. Now let's hear more about Rule Star from my good friend, Congressman Perriell.
Thank you, Mr. Clyburn, and thanks to all of my colleagues up here who are great champions of the Make It in America agenda. Know that we will never close our budget deficit until we close our trade deficit. And half of that trade deficit comes from our dependence and addiction to foreign oil. We must start making and building and growing things in America again. We must realize that Wall Street and the banking sector are not the entire economy. In the state of Virginia, forestry and agriculture remain the greatest sector. Manufacturing and construction, 2 of the areas we've had the greatest losses. What we've heard over and over again from the American people is we must focus on jobs and we must focus on common sense. Rural Star is a great example of that common sense approach to job creation. By saying we are going to put American construction crews to work, rebuilding existing building stock in rural communities. We are going to have them do that using American-made manufactured products like the insulation here and the window film here that's manufactured in my district. We make the best window film in the world. We're actually exporting this product to Asia, and we need to start hearing more of that in the months and years ahead. American-made products being exported overseas instead of the reverse. And those American construction crews are going to work using American manufactured products to reduce the electric bills of America's middle class and seniors, particularly in our rural communities. I was volunteering with my team the other day on September 11th, and we were in a poor neighborhood. And a woman came up to me and said that she pays about $200 a month in rent and over $600 a month in her electric bill. She spends time taking old sweatshirts and rags and stuffing them between the gaps between her floor and her wall. At a moment when we desperately need construction jobs and desperately need manufacturing jobs, we have a chance to unleash the private sector on solving this problem of America's efficiency and helping people reduce their electric bills. With window film like this, with American-made insulation, with American-made ingenuity, we can come out of these tough times more competitive than we have ever been. Today, a group of inventors from my district won the X Prize for winning and designing the most efficient automobile ever invented. American-made technology, invented in America. And he is committed to wanting to manufacture those cars of the future right here in the United States. When we commit to an efficiency policy, a manufacturing policy, an innovation-oriented economy, we can bring back those manufacturing and construction jobs that are the backbone of the American middle and working class. And we can help get a little bit of economic relief through lower electric bills. Rural Star, the Make It in America efforts, the efforts to reduce our trade deficit, to go after China for manipulating its currency, to understanding that the challenge of our time is once again for America to be able to outcompete the world, and that anyone who doubts we can does not understand the strength of America, American business, and the American worker. We will outcompete the world when we use this common sense agenda to get back to making it in America again. I want to thank the Majority Whip, Mr. Clyburn, for his vision on Rural Star and on getting back to a Make It in America agenda. Thank my colleagues for their support and wish everyone a blessed day.
Thank you so much, Tom. No one in the Congress has been more tenacious on these issues, especially the Make It in America issues, than Marcy Kaptur, and I present her at this time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whip. It's just such a joy to join you as such a stellar leader for our country, and then to be here with Congressman Tom Perriell and Larry Kissell, who have added such dimension to us as a Congress. Today I'm here to talk a little bit about the great passage yesterday of the Made in America Promise Act, H.R. 2039, that passed the House on a vote of 371 to 36. I will tell you 35 of the no votes were all Republican. So we still have some people there who don't get it. But the idea of the Make It in America Promise Act is that Congress will raise its own consciousness to help raise the consciousness of the country to buy American-made goods that we use here and also sell in the gift shops. It's amazing to walk through the gift shops and the visitor center on the Senate and the House side and to see where items come from. Why would we have calculators from China? Why shouldn't we have calculators from the United States? We should make every effort here to set a higher standard and to raise consciousness. And what our bill does is basically apply the standards and provisions of the Buy America Act, which has been around since the 1930s, to the legislative branch, finally. And therefore, in our procurement of office supplies, in what is sold to the public, in the gift stores, that we say to America, we understand that jobs are directly connected to producing and growing in our country. And that to the extent we have a trade deficit this year of over, they're projecting, $500 billion, $650 billion, $700 billion, that means that for every billion, we lose 10,000 more jobs. So if you want to help to create economic growth in America, We ought to be making, growing, processing products here again. Once we close that trade deficit, that trade gap, which we have been amassing at historic proportion for the last 2.5 decades, we will begin to heal the 15 million to 20 million job deficit that we have in our country, 15 to 20 million people still out of work. So the effort here is to say we have to do our part. We set the standard to make it in America again. And we say to the country, pay attention. We're going to make extra effort in order to do this. We want U.S. suppliers to bid. Our doors are open. And we expect the executive branch to do the same. They've been under this mandate for a number of years. And we let the legislative branch catch up to where the country wants us to be, and in so doing, set that standard. We can actually make such a difference if we can begin to close the trade deficits that we have. Congressman Perriell talked about the building materials arena as being a strength for us. He talked about automotive. Oil imports and automotive imports are the two top categories of trade deficit. In order to catch up, we have to invent the new cars of the future right here. Manufacture, produce, distribute. The same is true in electronics. The same is true in consumer goods, in every single category. That is truly our challenge, wedding new technology, new invention to new job creation. I thank all my colleagues who voted for the Made in America Promise Act yesterday as we pull America forward and we continue to keep adding jobs because we are producing, growing, and processing here again in our country, making it in America again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcy. Let me now yield the mic to my friend, colleague to the north, from North Carolina, Larry Kissell, who represents Warren County and can tell us about the impact of that legislation. Larry?
Good afternoon, everybody, and I'd like to thank Mr. Clyburn and my colleagues and congratulate them on the legislation which they were so instrumental in passing and their strong support of Make It in America. I'm here today to talk a little bit about H.R. 3116, the Berry Amendment Extension Act. For over 60 years, the Berry Amendment has served as a law requiring the Department of Defense to make all uniforms, completing the process from growing to assembling in all aspects, to make all the uniforms that service men and women of our nation here in the United States. It was brought into being as a matter of national security, so that our men and women would have the best as they serve us, and also national security so that we make sure that we have these jobs and the security of people working. Shortly after coming to Congress in January in 2009, I was approached by some folks, I guess based upon my 27 years of working in textiles, that asked me if I would help sponsor the extension of the Berry Act to Homeland Security, in particular TSA. This would seem like common sense, but obviously had not been done through the years. We agreed to do it. We encountered some problems along the way with outside special interests, but we were able to pass this amendment as a part of the Recovery Act. Well, that wasn't good enough, so we immediately went to work to introduce a law, and I appreciate the bipartisan support we had in this introduction, and that we worked on introducing this law to apply to all of Homeland Security. So the Berry Amendment and the process of having the uniforms made in America would apply to all of Homeland Security, not just TSA. We were successful with that yesterday. You know, the textile industry has suffered a lot since December of 2000. It's estimated that there's a trade deficit in textiles and apparel alone of approximately $578 billion, and loss of jobs in textiles and apparel since that time period of just under 600,000 jobs. In the most recent downturn, we've seen 44 textile industries closed and another loss of just over 60,000 jobs. But textiles have not gone away. These are some of the best American entrepreneurs. They've come out with new and better products. They are hanging in there, and this will allow them to take that knowledge and skill and entrepreneurship and continue to make the uniforms not only for our Department of Defense, but now Homeland Security. Mr. Clyburn talked about the additional jobs. I had one letter from Hope, Arkansas, right after we passed the amendment. There was just from 20 people saying, thank you for saving our job. Well, that's 20 families that did not have to worry about where they were going to work and where the income was coming from during these hard times. And in Richmond Yarns, the extension of the Berry Amendment alone, they say, saved the plant from closing, and now they've added 80 jobs. So this is putting Americans to work. Our service people and the people in Homeland Security deserve the best, and the best is still made here in the USA. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. And I think that you can tell from these presentations here today, as well as the vote that we just took on the floor of the House, that we are moving forward with our Make It in America agenda. And those of you who may have missed it, that it's all about making products in America, but also about us, our constituents, making it in America as well. And with that, I'll answer any questions, or I'll respond to them and let these people answer them.
I'm Jim Berger from Washington Trade Daily. It seems that the more bills that pass overwhelmingly under this rubric of Making in America, that program tends to attract other bills. There's one bill that I think recently came out of the Energy and Commerce Committee, which would require foreign exporters to set up offices, legal offices in the United States. I think it came out of the Chinese gypsum case, wallboard case, where if something goes wrong, you have access to that company. Is that, and I think it's Ms. Sutton's bill.
Better.
Is that part of the Make It in America?
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay.
Yes, it is. And there are still others, but we are boasting about those which have passed.
Mr. Chair,
Come on.
I wanted to make a statement about this in terms of the role of importers and exporters. When you have a product that comes from abroad, or let's say it's a creature that comes in Chinese packing material that ends up destroying all your hardwoods in the United States of America, do you know that there is no way for that to be remediated by those responsible paying the costs of that? What happens in our country is the costs of remediating the Asian longhorn beetle fall to the U.S. taxpayer. And so as an appropriator on the Department of Agriculture, I have to vote for money, tax money from our country, to pay for the mistakes that have been made by these companies doing business in the global marketplace that do not take responsibility for their own malfeasance. So Ms. Sutton's bill, Congresswoman Sutton's bill, and others in that genre, I would favor any that would hold responsible parties accountable just as they are under U.S. law. One of the fastest growing segments of our budget is for the taxpayers of the United States to be paying for the mistakes of these other companies and countries that are exporting into our economy, and they don't take responsibility for what they have done wrong. So I think we have to operate in our own defense on many fronts, including Congresswoman Sutton's bill, to try to prevent damage to the American Republic, but also to hold those responsible accountable as their products are sold here. We saw the same thing happen in the Toyota case, where we have all these vehicles flying around the place and people getting killed, and the Department of Transportation, Secretary LaHood, had to travel over to Tokyo to try to get data on what had happened inside the Japanese market, because we couldn't pry the lid off and figure out how could this happen, how could these unsafe vehicles be all over the streets of the United States. We have some ability to take some of that to court in our country, but these international trade agreements are oftentimes very poorly constructed to really be pro-consumer and to be within the laws of our country and the way we would operate here to assign accountability and responsibility. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, in cases where American-made goods cost more money than foreign imports, how do those offer more value to the American consumer, which would be the government?
I can just say that in the Make It in America Promise Act, we abide by the Buy America standards. which are that if they are within 6%, they have to be within 6%, the prices of the different products, and therefore they would be eligible. If there's something that has to be sold in a foreign country, that has to be bought in a foreign country, that's excluded. We do say in the case of where there's a seal, a congressional seal, a Senate seal, a House seal, those do have to be made in America, and there has to be a label affixed to that, made in America. But there is this, they have to be competitive. They have to be within that 6% band, which is the same standard applied on the executive side.
Right. But if it's 5% more expensive, how does that offer more value when it's something over time you have to buy a lot of it? For example, it's 5% more expensive in aggregate. That could be a lot more expensive to the American consumer.
Well, because we think within a 5% band, probably the 6% band, the government of the United States can negotiate. We can negotiate longer-term contracts. We can work with that supplier. Many times they're smaller companies. The market is not always certain, and we have to work to help American companies, because when we lose production and we lose it offshore, we lose jobs, we lose the ability to have sales tax in this country. You just see the ripple effect all across the economy. So when you make in America and sell in America, you capture the full value of a product. And I think some of those economic models are really wrong because they don't factor in, if you don't have the production, what does it cost you? And we're paying those costs right now. And more people have been outsourced. Their jobs have been outsourced. And we see the results of that all over the country. So I think what you're going to see as we restore American competitiveness, we're going to see prices come down. We're going to see more dependable production in this country. And I think that many of the models are flawed in terms of capturing what lost production actually costs us.
Yes.
Do you see the challenge the Tea Party is proving to be to Republican establishment?
I'm sorry?
Do you see the challenge that the Tea Party is proving to be to Republican establishment as a good thing for the Democratic Party in November?
Well, I don't know if I would put any kind of quantitative analysis on what that movement is doing. I would say this. I do believe that what we are witnessing is sort of an implosion taking place within the Republican Party. I think we all know what party Dick Armey was a member of when he served here in this Congress. And he has been the engineer of that entire movement. I think that what he's beginning to see now is you have to be very, very careful what you pray for. I'm sorry?
Some of these candidates that have done really well in the primaries, do you think that they would be easy targets?
I don't know whether they be easy targets or not. I do know this. There is a big difference in winning a nomination with around 30,000 votes and winning the general election. And I think that's what we saw this week. I think that their general elections are totally different from primaries. And I think that when these nominees get compared and contrasted with our nominees, I'm very comfortable that we've got the kind of candidates that the American people will look with favor upon come November the 2nd.
Thank you, guys. Mr. Clyburn.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
One Democrat signing on to a letter to the Speaker and Majority Leader saying they would like a 2-year extension of the Bush tax cuts. Do you as whip think we should wait till after the election to try to do anything with those tax cut legislation?
Well, I think that we are seeing a different climate being created these days. If the information I got an hour or so ago is correct, I think the Senate, with a very comfortable margin, passed its small business bill today. 2 weeks ago, nobody thought that would be possible, but it's happened. I do believe that what we're hearing, even from within the Republican Party, is that President Obama's tax cut for middle-income Americans is meeting with significant favor among a lot of Republicans. I think Mr. Boehner had a moment of realizations a few days ago when he said that this was something that he could vote for. I do believe that this tax bill, I want everybody to remember that what the president is proposing is an across-board tax cut on the first $250,000 earned by every American. So we don't exclude people who make more than $250,000. We just say you get the tax cut on the first $250,000, and then beyond that, you apply the other rates. So I do believe that there is widespread. I saw numbers saying 60% of the American people agree with the president's proposals, and I do believe that as we have discussions over this weekend, we may see a different climate when we get back in next week. Last question.
On the rural energy bill.
Thank you.
I don't understand this addition of the Homestar provisions. Can you explain that?
Yes. Well, Homestar was out there before. This bill was voted on before, and that bill is a different approach than Rule Star. And it has an across-the-board application. I just happen to be of the opinion, and many of my colleagues, and you can tell from the vote today, that rural communities, people who are members of co-ops, these electric co-ops, this gives them a special way of retrofitting, weatherizing, I guess, would be the best term, weatherizing their homes and using the savings that come from that to pay for that investment between up to around $7,000 or $8,000 per home. Use the savings that they get from their energy. In the case of one young lady in my congressional district who said that she was paying $600 a month for her energy bills, that's now dropped around $240 a month. That difference, she's repaying the loan through the co-op. Now, the co-ops got a long history of this kind of effort, and they're doing it in South Carolina now. The bill that we passed is to carry that nationwide, to nationalize a bill, an effort that's going on in South Carolina. So that's the way it differs from Homestar. The loans, as I understand it, in Homestar are made by the government. These loans, we are authorizing the co-ops to make these loans. They make the loans, and they manage it, and the money comes back to them through the monthly payments.
Mr. Whip?
Yes, ma'am.
Could I just clarify?
Sure, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify the question on the 6% price differential. I also wanted to state, when I say that prices don't reflect everything sometimes, the economic model. If you look at a car, for example, exported from Japan to the United States, the costs of their health insurance and other imputed social costs, which to average about $3,500 a vehicle, are forgiven on export. In our market, those dollars are a part of the sale price of the car, not forgiven on export. And if you look at the trade deficit between our country and Japan, well, frankly, Japan, every country in the world, less than 3% of her market are cars from any place else in the world. It's a closed market. If you look at Korea, we procure 700,000 of their cars every year. They only take 7,000 of ours. And if you look at the negative role that the VAT tax plays in all of that, and then you look at U.S. prices and you apply that to any product, whether it's computers, pencils, clothing, doesn't matter what, that affects price in this country. So price isn't always the only measure of what's really going on with the economics of that product. So I wanted to clarify that for you. As products move around the globe, there are lots of barriers. Some call them non-tariff barriers that impact product price, and we want to give an equal chance to the American producer. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for caring
This is
about
great.
this.
Oh.